think I'm back. The fuck? Fucking Canadians, bro.
With you right here, okay? I think the stupid trucker convoy is fucking stupid. But let's be real. It's about as bad as a fucking Grateful Dead convoy rolling through your town. It's a bunch of dumb, fucking independent truckers who've never done anything in their life besides complain on social media, and you call it a fascist occupation, and you're comparing it to the fall of the Weimar Republic? This is why I say you're a giant fucking cuck. And you are. Okay. Because you're whining like a baby.
You have no idea about who's actually organizing it.
I know who's organizing it. I just am
okay,
not,
so you're
I'm not
saying
as much
that
of,
they have
I'm
no
not
ties
as,
to
I'm not as much of a bitch as you.
Right,
I'm not scared. I'm not scared of some aging.
The Weimar liberals weren't scared either. They said, "Oh, that's fine. You know, the Nazis
yes, they.
won't
You
damage.
literally do not understand.
They're protesting, and their intimidation won't go too far. Don't worry, everyone. Let's not impose constitutional restrictions. Let's not do anything. Everything's gonna be okay."
I'm sorry.
This is literally the same talking points.
This is the dumbest. This is literally one of the dumbest things I've ever heard say. The Weimar Republic literally involved multiple compromises on fucking civil liberties. Are you fucking kidding me? That was the justification was emergency power. You're so literally so like I don't. Okay, can I ask you something just before I go off on a rant and call you a bunch of names and be really mean? How old are you?
Oh my
God. Don't do this! You were just mad about an exceptionalist argument. Don't fucking do one back. Especially when, okay, let's be fair. The argument of, hey, you don't know what the fuck's going on in my country is a lot more fair than, how old are you? I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry, but a 12-year-old in fucking Ukraine... Okay, maybe not a 12-year-old, but like an 18-year-old in Ukraine's probably more in touch than like a 28-year-old in America with what's going on in Ukraine. Okay? Go fuck yourself. Jesus Christ. The age argument gets to me just as much as the fucking country one. Like, probably more so, because I had people tell me that all the time, and I look back on things that I said when people would say shit like that to me, and I was like, no, I wasn't wrong.
Ageism, the logical fallacy?
Yes, a little bit of ageism.
Okay.
How old are you? Are you 16?
I'm older than you, so...
Okay, wow. How much older? Like, dementia?
Oh my god! Just drop the argument!
Like, how much ageism should I engage in?
So why don't we actually engage into the content of the arguments instead of just pretending that
no, there is no content. You just tried to tell.
Okay, but wait, yeah, I kind of hope Demon Mama responds with, "Wait, you just told me I couldn't be right because I'm American." So like, what the fuck?
Tell me, you just tried to tell me that the problem with the Weimar Republic was that they weren't willing to be authoritarian enough.
Yes,
the Weimar Republic, the categories, the way the Nazis took power was by using the fucking Reichstag fire to...
Also, I think I just misgendered. I apologize. to the person she's talking to.
To justify emergency takeover. You are so, like, fractally wrong that there is no reason for me to try and engage in an argument with you. You're not bringing arguments. You don't even know the history you're citing, and you're citing it to the degree that it's literally the opposite of what actually happened. I can't engage with somebody.
The Reichstag fire was after the Hitler was appointed chancellor, right? So the liberal
appointing Hitler the chancellor is not the be all and end all of everything. There were literally multiple compromises that
the 10 years that
democracy.
preceded that, the Nazi
and
Party
guess
was
what?
engaging
You,
in massive
as a purported
leftist, liberals refused to prosecute it in any sense.
You, a purported leftist, are coming here coming here to my show to try and tell me that we should just let the liberals do the exact same things that they do every single time, which is tee the ball up for fascists to crack down on everyone else. Not only is it a matter of precedent, but it's a matter of legitimacy. Every single
what pretext?
Stop. I was talking.
Okay.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Stop. Every single time that you undermine the promises, the so-called the basic.
Kind of sad that I gotta watch shit like this and I can't watch Destiny's hot takes anymore. I wanted to be an orbiter, but I guess not.
promises of a liberal democracy, by removing rights, you dissolve the legitimacy of that institution. And when that legitimacy dissolves, people can crack one of two ways usually. Well, there's really numerous, but broadly one of two ways. They can crack into the fascist angle, where they go, liberal democracy is bullshit. We aren't getting anything from this. Let's bring back a strong man who can make things right. Which I'm gonna guess is your position, being that you have expressed basically hyper-authoritarian positions. But there's another way that people can go, which is that they can go, wow, guys, states are just fucking liars. They just bully us around, and none of the rights that we're supposed to have are actually guaranteed to us. So perhaps we should look at better solutions than liberal democracy.
Like what? Give me one prescription that would be better for this situation. I'm all ears.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, what's a prescription, policy prescription, that you would suggest as a replacement for what Trudeau's doing, right? So, like, how do you deal with this fascist movement, with these occupiers, with all the hate crimes that are happening, right? So, what's your prescription? How do we deal with
Sorry,
that?
not
Is
to
there
arrest them.
arrest people?
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I just said true to we should arrest innocent people because I was responding to Discord. I meant true. Corinna just had to get ahead of Henry. Not true. We should arrest innocent people in a fascist state.
So again, you
use the rules that you have to. You want to talk about? Oh wait. I'm sorry. Did you want me to jump into like if I was able to just detonate the structures of the ideological structures of liberalism? Yeah, sure.
Do you know
the
reason? Okay, it's just like the reason why Trudeau is going after the money.
Wait, no, even moment. You're not. I'm gonna be honest. I'm half paying attention, but Demon Mama, you understand? You're not making the liberal argument. You're making the leftist argument. The person you're talking to is making the liberal argument. Are we? Or are you shitting on liberals? Either way, like, I don't know why we're doing this. Just address the fucking arguments, bro. Sorry, I know you don't like being called bro, so not that you're watching me, but this is like free therapy for me, okay? I've been seeing a lot of Demon Mama clips lately. All right, I gotta get it all out, okay?
Is because he doesn't want to be authoritarian to the point where he's arresting people without cause, right?
You're an idiot.
Like,
that is an idiotic
oh my God.
position. Wait, that is an absolute.
He wants to avoid huge conflicts of
incre-
violence on the streets.
That is a
why he's targeting
moronic
the money.
position. Moronic position. He's not.
He
just
literally threatened. He threatened
He's
slowly
not
with
just.
the chief of
He's
police
not
in
just
Ottawa.
targeting money. He's
Oh my God.
using the emergency powers to avoid ever having to put these people on trial, to avoid ever having to charge them with crimes. You fucking clod. This is why I said
my
I
God.
knew.
Again, this is not.
I fucking knew you weren't gonna listen. This.
Wait, yeah, you probably don't want to arrest protesters. Wait. Wait, is that what this argument's about? Oh my God, I never realized it. Like, I thought we were all just in agreement, like, yeah, I mean, they're protesting and, like, they're holding back, like, trade, but, like, I mean, fuck it, you know? Whatever. But is the argument actually, oh, no, they should be arrested for doing that? That seems kind of fucked to me. I don't know. Whatever.
This is the categorical issue with stupid liberal morons like you. Fucking libero tankies. They're all
How
the
can
same
you call
fucking
yourself
thing at
an
the end of
anarchist and you advocate for sending the fucking military to arrest people? Like, how can you say that's not authoritarian?
It's super easy. Watch this. Ready?
Okay, I'm listening.
Because suspending civil liberties would be worse than making arrests. Because if you make arrests, then people they get a trial.
Okay.
They get
How can you arrest people for
What are you arresting them for?
using their First Amendment right or their charter rights in Canada? That's authoritarianism. Are you saying that the federal government should come in and arrest people for their free speech?
Oh,
That's literally
interesting.
more authoritarian
Wait,
than freezing accounts related to foreign money.
Hold on a second.
It's a literal threat to our security.
Stinky. You just made a little mistake there. See, the funny thing is, you just admitted that you want to convict people and punish them without ever even knowing if they were guilty. See, that's the thing.
You're the one who wants to arrest someone and put them on trial. Freezing assets is not the same as arresting them. Not that I'm taking that side. I want to make that very clear. But, like, because I don't know enough about how Canada fucking operates. I'm going to be honest. I have that little fucking America-centric shit going on. But, like, you're the one who wants to arrest people. What the fuck are you on about?
I say they should make arrests. I'm talking about the people who they have evidence of doing crimes. You just want the government to be able to go after whoever the fuck they want without ever having to evidence it whatsoever. I'm saying if they have to go in and do arrests, if that's the way, if there is so much rampant criminality going on right now, if this is truly the fascistic opposition, well then they should easily be able to evidence that. They should easily be able to use their existing powers, the existing powers which I think are too oppressive. But they should be able to do it with the existing powers. Why do they need a magical button?
That's a bad.
Why do they need a magical button that turns off due process?
So look, Trudeau currently has the power.
Hey, I don't like Demon Mama, but damn, girl, way to keep it concise there. That was actually, I'm proud of you. Make all your arguments like that. That was good.
And also the provincial and the Ottawa police, they have the power to actually arrest people for
Backpedal, Andy.
for
Here
crimes.
we go.
Wait.
Woo!
Because they are violent. They are doing crimes. For example, there's massive bylaw violations by having vehicles on the roads where they're not allowed. So technically, the police, the federal government, everyone is allowed to arrest those people. Wait, no. But
a fish concert would do more damage than these people.
Problem.
Do you think the government should just wait? Do you think the government? No. Do you think the government should suspend due process for a fish concert
at all? Again, you're not considered.
Can I put hell in my stream title?
Yes, I am. So I assure you, I'm thinking about it more than you are, which is
the
not
reason why they're not fucking sending the military in the streets and removing everyone for violating crimes. It's specifically because that would cause huge amounts of violence. Not to mention, I fucking live in Centertown. Like, if this happens, people on our streets, like, a lot of people might die because they're right. It's like you can't just send in the military in and where there's thousands of fucking fascist protesters around the streets and not expect fucking things to get bloody, right? That would be a terrible fucking move. And like the idea that you would even consider that as being a good it's just like have you even thought of this at all? Like the reason why he's turning the money is because he doesn't want the negative consequences of having clashes with the military.
With all due respect, I have thought about this very clearly, more than you have, and more effectively than you have, which is the.
You seem not to care about fucking violence and the consequences of that.
Wait.
I mean, that's right.
Wait.
I'm just saying.
Violence takes many forms. One such form of violence is a state that has the monopoly on violence, not having any checks and balances, or having a
live in a democracy.
Excuse me, or having a magical button that they can press that turns off their need to actually provide a due process. That, as it turns out, is very bad and a form of violence.
Wait. Okay. I don't think Demon Mama agrees with this argument because I'm pretty sure she would argue that the sovereignty of a nation exists to some extent. As in, they're a democracy, they have elected... Sorry, they're representative democracy, they're a republic. They've elected officials who have voted on these laws, and these laws are now being enacted, the articles being used. If it was democratically elected, I mean, does the sovereignty of the state... I don't know, hold on.
But very bad violence, a form of violence that easily...
Yeah, okay, so she's... I don't know, because again, I don't know enough about fucking Canada, but I feel like she wouldn't even agree with this argument if you ran her down on it. So
easily spirals out of control and can literally very, very easily be weaponized and has been already against people whose political opinions I don't think are even as bad as these. So
do you know? Okay, so the thing you're not understanding is the reason why they're removing those temporary measures that. So, for example, criminal crimes take months to
No, the reason
prosecute,
why
to
they're
charge.
removing.
Wait.
the reason-
So
no, I
it's
do
very
understand this.
important
No,
that
see,
we
it's
be
funny.
quick on this.
You said
you
no,
can't
no,
just
we don't need
spend
to.
months like prosecuting and charging shit like this. That's not gonna be
Interesting.
effective. Yeah, no, it is
Ah.
interesting. That's why the government
Interesting.
did it. That's literally
Damn.
why. 'Cause,
So let me
yeah,
ask you something. You know what?
There's
I
millions
think,
of
wait
fucking money
wait a
coming
second,
from the
please,
United
please,
States
please, please
funding
shut the
fascist
fuck up.
organizations.
Please
We're
shut the
gonna wait
fuck up.
months?
Ha-
Like, come on,
heretic,
man.
heretic. Please shut the fuck up, heretic. I believe that if what were we supposed to do? Have a bunch of judges sitting around to decide whether or not you're a witch? The Pope has already decided that you're a heretic and that you're a witch, and you will be burned as such.
Holy fuck.
Do you
No
realize?
We're not convicting anyone. We're freezing their assets. Like, chill. you're getting a bit extreme. Yeah, they're getting consequences whether or not they're fucking guilty. Okay, but like, it's in the fucking powers, dude. Like, that's a problem with the system. That's not. It's not the equivalent of fucking burning someone at the stake or throwing them in prison. Okay. What you're arguing for is arguably worse. You want to actually throw someone behind bars because you want them to have a fair trial? I mean, I don't know.
Do you realize exactly what you're talking
no
about?
No concerns for pragmatism at all. Like this is
No,
what you expect
no
from
concerns of
currently
pragmatism.
online
Wait,
anarchist,
hold on.
like
Wait a
that.
second.
Oh,
Wait,
trying
let's
to
just
bring
take a
shit.
moment and let's talk about pragmatism, because that's a very, very bad point for you to bring up. When your shitty ass in shambles embarrassment of a liberal democracy, when you're embarrassment of a hometown, whatever fucking Ottawa bullshit town you live in, when they can't even
Christ.
manage to get a fish concert under control, what does that say about your fucking shit ass nation? When your
It means our police is terrible, and
when
we
your
have to do something
police
about it.
when your police are so motherfucking
This isn't an argument about Canada's sovereignty. This is an argument that Canada's shit. Holy fuck.
stupid that they can't provide evidence against the so-called what you called a fascist occupation? They can't find evidence of that? How fucking stupid are your police officers?
Yeah,
How
they just
stupid
don't
are
wanna
you?
enforce it because they're afraid of the consequences.
Oh, so they're cucks, and you're a cuck too.
I'm a cook.
I mean, yeah, you like this. It's not a smart move.
Yeah!
To fucking
Oh my-
send
oh my
in
God,
thousands
oh
of
my
police
God.
officers in the middle of a populated area where you're gonna expect massive
my
amounts of
God.
violence and riots. Like, what kind of fucking calculation is that? You'd have to be fucking dumb to do that.
You just admitted that you're a cuck, so thank you. I appreciate for the unequivocal win.
But,
I'm
like,
glad that you've
Anyway,
Just
we're
like
admitted that.
you seem not to be concerned at all with any like kind of like utilitarian argument about consequences.
Wait.
Alright. I don't think I agree with either of them. That's all I can say on that one. What else you got? Real talk. Identity and why it matters. There's no way I could disagree with anything in here, right?
Well. Welcome to the show. Long time no speak. I believe it's been like literally like a year and a half since I was on
Iris.
a panel of yours, if I remember
Annie.
correctly,
Damn, that's not
which
100%
involved
now.
like
Fuck yeah.
Dario or something a long time ago. I don't know if you remember that, but
Yeah,
thank
wow.
you.
I'm surprised you remember. Yeah.
of course
so
I remember
it's
it
kinda,
lots.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how like, I think half the people on that panel just never like just stopped streaming and stuff. You know, Splinters and Dario, and the other half
Yeah.
became like Twitch villains.
Twitch. Am I a
Yeah.
Twitch villain? Wait, was I the Twitch villain type?
I think like you're pretty notorious on Twitch,
I
right?
am, yeah. I am.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm very
Yeah.
notorious on Twitch. It's very funny.
God, she fucking
Um,
smiles and laughs at
Yeah,
that.
Dario.
think-
I haven't talked to Dario
shit.
in a while. I hope he's doing all
Yeah,
right.
you villainize
I've seen him
fucking
posting some
Destiny
cringe,
and shit.
But that's all. That's nothing.
Hell,
new.
you villainize Vosh
Me
sometimes
and Dario always
now.
got along
Holy
despite him having
shit.
some cringe perspectives, and us having some very intense disagreements. On your panel, in fact, if I recall correctly, we got kind of intense.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, welcome. Very happy to have you. So what did you wanted to talk about identity, right? Yeah. Hit me with it.
Yeah. So I heard like about half of the conversation you were just having, which was it was pretty cool. I think so. To me, it kind of sounds like basically you. Okay, how do I say this? So it seems like essentially the way you see identity is like, okay, identity can be like a lot of different things. I'm not gonna like think too much about like what it is exactly.
I kind of hope this conversation gets some neo-pronouns because I need to self-reflect on neo-pronouns a lot. So, been doing that in the shower lately. Just get into the shower and just start thinking, neo-pronouns, they're a thing, huh? You know?
Exactly, but I think that people have a right to assert their own identity, basically, right?
I mean, I think about identity quite a lot, personally.
I don't mean to be mean. But no shit.
But I don't like believe that it's easy to come to like a single solid conclusion about identity. I have a lot of personal thoughts and ways that I go about crafting and you know, thinking about and reading about and whatever identity in various forms. But I just don't think I think it's identity is something that I think is very, very, very difficult to like codify or universalize. I think that it's so it is the ultimate subjectivity, right? Like yeah. So I feel like it's a hard thing to try and codify or universalize or generalize. I think that so as a result, I tend to have an approach that is that allows people to, or that I argue for a world that would allow people to be, you know, quite expressive with their identity in many, many ways, because it's
all right, and this is where I think the disconnect is that no one's saying that you can't identify as things. The problem, and where the gap is, and again, I'm still trying to figure out that neo-pronoun shit and everything for myself, is when you say your gender can be anything, when that literally used to be the conservative straw man. But now you have people who are saying my gender identity can be anything I want it to be, and anything is a valid gender. When there are certain aspects that fall into the category of like man, woman, and non-binary, right? Why did it just give a notification for the Canadians are DDoSing me? What the fuck? Anyway, there are certain aspects that fall under into the what we call the gender spectrum, right? When we talk about man versus woman, and there are certain identities and aspects that don't quite fit that definition, but we wouldn't go on to call them genders, is where I think a lot of people would go with it, and that's why I think the conversation around neo-pronouns is so very difficult. We'll see where they go with this.
Seems to me, at least from my life experience, from everything I've read, from everything that I believe, that people do really well when they have agency over who they are and what and how they're, you know, generally how they're perceived. Obviously, there's like, I don't mean like you know, you don't have a reputation or anything like that, but that like you get to choose who you are and what people's.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone has a problem with you. Well, okay, no, that's a lie. There are definitely people who have problems with you presenting yourself in certain ways. I mean, there are always going to be ways that are going to be socially unacceptable. But let's talk about ways that, like, all right, let's be a little bit more, like, intellectually honest here, okay? So, people present in certain ways that we would deem, like, socially acceptable. So, like, you identify as a gamer, but the problem is, do we say gamer is a gender? When we talk about the aspects of a gamer, they can fall under the purview of man or woman. Is this where their conversation is going? I might be talking out of my fucking ass. I don't even know where they're heading with this. But, I don't know, that's what I'm assuming.
like what people understand about you as you. And I personally, that's certainly very important to me. I really don't like people telling me what I can and can't be or who I can and can't be. So yeah, that tends to be my approach to identity. I think there's like many models of understanding identity that are at least in some part correct, or perhaps maybe just as correct as others. I just think it's a hard thing to draw any sharp lines on. Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, the thing which like interested me there was, I guess, the expressive part, where essentially, like, it's like identity for the most part. I'm saying like this is kind of how you see it, right? This is how.
I never thought about the soul here. Hold on, getting off topic. There's doors there. Oh, this was a bathroom. Okay. So this was a complete wall. And this was the backstage changing area. And you could access the bathroom from this side. But this was a whole wall. Interesting. Okay.
Oh, is the ability to is like a way of expressing some internal mechanism, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly part of it, right? Like, I don't know how I don't really know how I would conceptualize identity, or what the identity conceptualization would be of other creatures that aren't like us. But you know, us type creatures, you know, we are introspective. We have an internal world that nobody else can have access to unless we choose to communicate that via visual, audio, you know, olfactory, you know, touch and taste. Like, these things are that's the way that we can communicate things about what's going on in our head, because we don't have any way of directly transmitting that information. You know, so yeah, I tend to think that like identity and expression are very tightly tied. But of course, there are people who are very private about their identity, and who you know, only reveal certain parts of their identity to certain people. I think that's true of almost everyone to some degree, but to others certainly more so. Like, I mean, there are things that only my partners know about me, and that will remain the case until I die. I think that's true for most people.
What the fuck is this conversation about, dude? This is so fucking boring. Like, I thought when they said identity, they're gonna be debating fucking trans shit. Not, I don't know if I'm allowed to be who I am. Like, alright, but there are certain aspects of your identity that probably, like, if it exists, like, I don't know, like, probably should be changed. For instance, like, if you're a pedophile, like, that's something that can exist, and being, I mean, I don't want to get too far into the pedophile debate. I don't know, maybe on, you are a blood, okay, we'll go with serial killer.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna pause the game. You are a bloodthirsty serial killer, alright? You just want to kill every motherfucker you see, okay? And that's like your identity. That's what you're going off of. There's probably some aspect of that identity that we should try to change. That I wouldn't call that a valid identity, you know? Being a serial killer, or like being a pedophile. I don't know. I feel like the pedophile is such a good example, but people get so fucking heated over it. Like, alright, if you're a pedophile and you don't act on it, alright, but still, we should probably do something to fix that, right? Like, there's still something wrong there. Because we don't want them to have the urge to act on those feelings, you know? Or, okay, wait, maybe you're depressed, you're suicidal. Like, we don't want you to go Roblox yourself, you know? We don't want you to kill yourself. Your identity could be a depressed, suicidal person. Or, you know, you have suicidal tendencies. But we don't want you to act on those urges. So, not every form of identity is valid.
I guess I can probably just give an example from my life to explain, but
Sure.
so like, for me, I am ethnically, I guess, Indian, right? So my parents were Indian. I mostly grew up in India, right?
Okay.
But I was born in the U.S., right? And I stayed in the U.S. until 3rd grade.
Yep.
So I have like an American accent, for example, like as you can hear, of course. And additionally, like in India, there are like different schools and stuff. So I went to something called an international school.
Familiar with them.
So
Yep.
most,
My roommate
yeah,
went to international school. Yeah.
yeah.
in college.
So most of my friends and the people I talked to were also like quote NRIs, so people who are kind of considered non-residential Indians, or at least were non-residential Indians, right? So I've had like a sort of split identity, basically, between like, am I sort of American or am I Indian, right? And one thing which I noticed was like, when I'm staying in India, then I feel more American. When I'm staying in America, now I'm in America, and I feel more Indian, right? So,
Yeah, I
and-
think that makes
yeah.
sense. Like that you would become aware of the differences, you know, based on the proximity. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense to me. Yeah.
What the fuck? Where's this conversation going? How far into this conversation are we? Okay, we're only 7 minutes in. Alright, go on.
Yeah, so I just thought it was interesting because it's kind of like a way in which like it's not just that I'm choosing to express this aspect of my identity more. The actual like identity is changing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think there's like
Is that the way you feel about your identity can change from society to society? So there's kind of the example of assuming there is a society where all the aspects of, for instance, men and women are flipped, and we took you and placed you in that society, you're probably going to feel more like the opposite gender at which you ascribe in your society. So, for instance, if you tend to present very masculine, and we put you in a society, oh, masculinity is women, you're probably going to feel some sort of gender dysphoria. There is that aspect. So it's not so much that it's not you're changing, it's we're changing the society that you're in and the standards of that society, and the definition of the thing you're trying to identify as is what's changing.
there's like two parts of that, at least the way that I would look at it, and this could be different for different people, but the way I look at identity is like, I think that it can be very hard, but I think that there are sort of imposed identities and unimposed identities, right? So like I mean, there are drastic examples of this, like being a criminal, right? Somebody else decides that you're a criminal. You don't get to really choose that, and that.
I think this kind of gets into what I was talking about earlier, where society, I can play it while I do this. Society kind of decides what the groups are, and I feel like you're the one who decides if you fit into those groups. So, language is a social construct, is I guess what I'm saying there. That in one society, words can mean one thing, whereas you bring that into another society, like a man and a woman might be different in one society or another. But like, let's like talk about whether or not you're a gamer or not. Like, that could be super malleable, yeah, but like, would you call someone who fucking plays, like mobile games in our society? We wouldn't call that a fucking gamer. But if you took them and put them in Japan, for instance, mobile games are pretty fucking big. Actually, that might be the reverse example. Where, we talk about someone follows esports, and you call them a fucking gamer. But, like, in, like, South Korea and shit, like, it's fucking massive. Like, you're just an esports fan, words mean different things in different societies, and I think everything to an extent is imposed based on what Demon Mom is saying.
That's very dehumanizing. Like, if you're false, it's dehumanizing even if you're guilty of some sort of crime to be called a criminal. But, like, even more so, like, imagine being called a criminal because of an unjust law. Like, if you were an example that I could think of off the top of my head is like an escaped slave, right? That person would totally disagree with slavery, and yet they're called a criminal for resisting something they don't think is right. Like this is a type of identity, I think, that is like you are
Listen,
subjectified.
I really gotta pee.
You are,
I promise. I'm listening, and I'm
something
gonna
is put
respond
upon
to
you.
everything she says once I get back.
I think that like I think there is
I'm not baiting content.
a lot of that gets conflated with our sort of personal identities in the society like ours, which is like, I mean, who decides like what you like? Well, it's you, right? And you decide how much you share that you like that. This is where you get to the sort of one of the other extremes, which is like another type of identity that's not taken as seriously. Well, I guess some people probably do. Is like being a fan of something, right? Like you choose that identity, you declare that identity. Nobody, I mean, some people could call you a fake fan or whatever, but that's like we recognize that's like a pretty meaningless thing. Like if you're cheering for the team, you're probably a fan of that team. And we accept that to be the case. So I think that first of all, our like English is like woefully under-equipped to discussions of identity in its current form. But also like American culture
I was listening.
is
You're full of shit. You're full of shit. You're arguing against yourself right now because you were literally just saying. Actually, you know what? Maybe not. Because you're arguing that there might be cases that you have imposed identity. But are you arguing against the concept of imposed identity? I don't know. But hold on, because there's still people. They might be separate, but they're like microcosms of society who are deciding what the definition of a fan is, right? So, like, oh, you know what? Great example. Hold on. We gotta get the best cam. Hold on. I don't know how to do this. Wait. Video capture device. Add existing camera. All right, here I am. Okay, here we go now. All right. Let's talk about fucking Elden Ring, all right? 10 out of 10. Best game of the year. Okay, 9 out of 10. I like Dark Souls 3 better, but we're not going to get into that. Alright. There are people who are saying, if you summon, if you use bleed, if you... I don't know what other stupid, like, cheesy shit is there in the game. If you use that, you didn't play the fucking game. You didn't win. You're not a real gamer, okay? However... there's another group of people who disagree with that. No matter what team you're on, one group isn't going to see you as those things because of the certain characteristics that you fall into. I guess bring this back to the gender identity argument. It's, in our society, we commonly accept that gender exists on a binary, right? So there are certain feminine aspects, there are certain masculine aspects. Whichever one you add up more to, people are probably going to recognize you as a man or a woman. And then obviously if you want to go with the whole non-binary in the middle. However, you can't argue that doesn't exist. People recognize these two categories. Just because you want to identify outside of that category, that's great, and you're valid in how you present yourself, but people are still going to recognize you as fitting into those categories, and that gets to the kind of utilitarian, like, how we use language argument and all that shit, so. Anyway, I just think she's arguing against herself. I think that's kind of bullshit. Alright.
It leans very heavily onto the side of imposing identities on other people. Americans love to tell you what you are, who you are to them. And a lot of this is because of the state. I mean, again, another sort of extreme example of this is like how people get called a terrorist, right? Like that's literally something that like, holy shit. Like before 9/11, do you think nobody called fucking anybody a terrorist? That word entered the lexicon because of 9/11, and then all of a sudden everybody's calling everybody a terrorist all the time. And America is like addicted to this. America loves telling people what they are, and we have this very, I would argue, an almost imperialistic approach to identity, where in our society, what other people think of you is often considered societally more important than what you think of yourself. But I think there's some obvious major flaws to that. For example, most people don't know me as well as I know myself. Most people don't know anybody as well as that person knows themselves. And I grew up in a family that constantly tried to push different types of identities on me, which is very, very painful, as it turns out. So I don't know if that makes sense, but like I think that
I
it's
cannot
important
understand
to
what you're
sort of
saying
like
without an example.
acknowledge that there's a lot of conflation between between our ability to self-identify and what is imposed on us. And
The problem with her not giving a fucking example here, I don't know if she's trying to identify out of existing categories. Right? Like, it's the whole argument for why fucking trans people are valid. Is the fact that the way we recognize men and women, it doesn't have to do with your penis or your vagina. That's the whole trans argument. But if you're trying to say that it's a social construct, therefore you can identify however you want, there's so many fucking issues with that. I love the afterburner.
And I think a lot of times there's a lot of malicious imposition of identity. And we can think of course, extreme examples, but there's minor examples as well, right? Like, like, I can imagine, like, minor examples, like somebody being called a debate bro, right? Like, you know, that could bother somebody. And, you know, sometimes we go, okay, we don't really care if that bothers them. But it's an example of a minor imposition of an identity on somebody else. And there's sometimes reasons to do this. I mean...
Why would you... Wait, no, she's about to say it. She's about to... Well, there might be a valid reason. Is it because they fit a certain category and that there's utility to the words we're using? Is that why you would say it?
For example, I think there's plenty of good reasons to sometimes impose an identity, or at least contextually, an identity on somebody else. Like, what if somebody is a sexual assaulter and is in danger to the people around you? Might be worth it for you to be like, hey, here's the reason why I say they're that thing, even if they say they're not. But I think that most of the time, we don't need to operate that way. I think that should be the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, I guess.
Wait, but why do we do that? Why do we give them that label? It's because there's utility to it, right? Like, if someone asks you if you're a man or a woman, you're gonna tell them you're a woman. And it's not because you feel that you're a woman. It's because that's the way that you present, right? You fall under certain categories. I'm sorry, but, like, your argument's kind of hurting trans arguments right now, and I fucking hate that. I feel like you should know better. You do know better. I know you know better. What the fuck?
It's like one thing, just bouncing off that last point.
Actually, you know what? I've heard Demon Mama make arguments like this before. What I'm saying right now, but then for some reason she decided to go like, I don't know why I'm hitting this. She wanted to defend like neo pronouns and neo identities and xenogenders and all that to like the bitter end, and I'm like, but okay, which by the way, I can't tell if those things are valid or not because I haven't heard a reasonable argument. I keep hearing this argument, which just hurts the trans argument. And if it hurts the trans argument, there is no way we're getting anywhere close to being accepting of xenogenders. Like, what are you talking about? How the fuck am I supposed to accept a xenogender if your argument literally goes against just the fundamentals of the transgender argument? I don't know. It's fucking stupid, dude.
So like, we have, for example, let's pick the debate bro example, right? So we have like, this person is a debate bro versus like, maybe this person tends to engage in so-and-so sort of behavior, right?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how, even if technically you're trying to say the same thing, when you say those two, I think tends to be a difference, like, when you hear that.
100%.
Because obviously, one is, like, about who you are, and one is just about behavior, which you can probably change.
I mean, that's a part of the, like, that's an active part of, like, conflict resolution, right? Like, if you take a conflict resolution course or something like that, or even if you read some books on conflict resolution, one of the first things they'll...
Hey, dude, I'm not saying you're a debate bro, but you're sure acting like a debate bro. Like, how are they acting like a debate bro? Is it because they fit a certain category of people? Oh, wait! No, you're just calling them a debate bro without saying they're a debate bro. Like, what the fuck, dude?
They'll tell you is, like, be careful to avoid essentialization. Because, like, if you say, like, hey, that was a really, like, rude thing that you did, that's very different from saying, like, you are a rude person. Essentializing people can be really harsh because it's a totalizing, imposed...
Wait, no, but... Okay. Gotta choose my words carefully here, because they're playing super semantic games. You are acting like a rude person is valid. If they continuously do it, they are a rude person. For the person who calls people Nazis just because they have certain aspects that a Nazi holds. Just saying. We literally just got done talking about, well, Bush is a Nazi. Or Bush is, sorry, not a Nazi. That was, I misspoke. She literally called Bush a fascist, right? Or she defended that position. I can't remember, one or the other. If you're going to call somebody a fascist, you're going to call people fascists because they match a certain category. You're imposing that identity onto them. This is going completely against what you're saying right now. These videos were within 2 weeks of each other.
That people
It's
are
fucking
likely
wild.
to take offense to because it's too aggressive and too totalizing. Yeah, so I think there's a point there. I think
Calling
you're
somebody
touching
a
on something
fascist is-
very valid there, yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, I guess another thing I was just thinking about. So, like, for example, I guess, like, what? Okay, how do I say this? So there are different ways that you can affirm someone's identity, right? So, for
Of course.
example, yeah, pronouns is one example, right? So I think one interesting fact is a lot of people who kind of might deny, xenogenders or whatever else. It seems to be through this, what if they have a sort of invalid way of...
Okay, here's the main contention I have with xenogenders and neopronouns. That I think can be solved to a certain extent. It's that I haven't heard a valid argument as to what do xenogenders bring to the table that the current existing pronouns don't already bring to the table. And I guess that's where I kind of get caught up. So when we talk about, like, their, them, I find a lot of the people who identify as their, them could just fit into the category of non-binary and just fit somewhere in between. So we already have pronouns for those things. We already have labels for that existing. Why are we making up words for categories that already exist? Now, one argument that I don't think I've heard, I've just pondered about, is... I think I'm literally just talking to myself, but it's fine. It's cool. I'm having a good time. Is that we can think of neopronouns as fitting outside of the gender spectrum, which goes against the idea of xenogenders. But I think I'm fine with neopronouns as long as we recognize that they're new categories separate from your gender. Because kind of like, for instance, you can call someone a gamer, and that's a label. I mean, it's kind of like a pronoun. It's really not, but, like... So when I think of their, them, okay, it might map onto certain qualities that maybe they and them don't quite map onto, but they and them still would map onto all those qualities. Does that make sense? So, like, some of these things may not be gendered. They might not be considered masculine or feminine. So, for instance, playing video games. So, you can't... They and them still describe someone who does somewhere in the range of masculine and feminine things, but gamer is more descriptive to their identity. So, I guess that... I don't know if that's how Zerzem works, but again, that kind of gets me to the point where I don't believe in xenogenders. I might understand neopronouns, but xenogenders don't quite map onto how these categories are used. So,
expecting you to affirm their identity, right? So
Yeah.
Obviously, one thing which can be really obvious is like, oh, I identify as like a 6-year-old or like a 15-year-old, so you have to let me like have sex with 15-year-olds, right? So that's like a really obvious.
hold on, you're on to something. Hey, it's almost like, even though it's socially constructed, these categories do have meaning behind them, right? Which again is the entire argument for why there's the difference between gender and sex, and why you can be transgender, still recognize that you have a penis or vagina, because the fact is, your gender identity, your gender presentation doesn't map on to your sex, right?
Just like invalid way of affirming
Yeah.
someone's identity, right?
Well, I think that's a different claim, though, right? Like, they're different types of claims. Like an age is not a is in no way like it is very implausibly a subjective definition, right? Like if somebody was to say like how old are you? They are asking like how long have you been on this planet? And that isn't exactly... I mean, you could argue that, of course, there's different perceptions of time. There's different ways of measuring time. But barring those examples, age and gender are two very different things. It's like... It would be more like if... not just gender, but there's other different types of identities you could say as well that are different. Like, for example, age is very different than, like, the previously mentioned... fandom. Like, those are two very different things that they're referring to.
I don't think it is, though. Because when you talk about whether or not someone's a fan, there's some aspects of how they present themselves that's going to map on. So, for instance, when we... this is going to get fucking weird for a second. Okay, let's talk about the presentation of age. When you present your age... Okay, hold on. Okay, let's just go by that. Every identity has some form of presentation and category that certain aspects that you're going to fall into, right? So we talk about your age. You are objectively, this much time has passed since you've existed. Now, you don't necessarily present that in any way, because someone can look younger or older, right? It doesn't have to do with your presentation. The reason that it's an identity is because it's some sort of aspect that can map onto your person. But even though the idea of time, the identity itself, the words are all socially constructed, they still have a specific meaning and definition that they need to fall into. So, your age is how long since you have been born. Now we talk about someone who is a fan. You can't just say you're a fan of something that you've never heard of. There are still certain... you can. Doesn't make it true. Same way that I can say, I'm a billion years old. That doesn't make that true. Right? Because... going back to the whole imposed... I actually like that idea. The whole imposed identity thing. Well, hold on. If you've never heard of something, you can't possibly be a fan of it. So there's... yes, there's a grayer area when it comes to, what would you call it? The authenticity of the claim of whether or not you are a fan. There's more of a gray area. but there's still some aspect that the word maps onto.
When somebody asks you, are you a fan of X, they're basically saying, do you like something enough that you're willing to kind of identify with it publicly? Whereas when somebody's asking your age, they're trying to find out, like, your, you know, probably how long you've been on the planet, whether you fit within these certain laws for certain things. So, I mean, I think they're different
But what if you've never
conversations.
heard of
People bring this up a lot with regard to, like, the transracialism thing as well.
Right.
There's a lot of, like, sort of, I would say, like, false comparisons made, or I wouldn't say false, but very, very shoddy and loose comparisons that I think are very clumsy between, like, being transgender and being transracial, which they're very different social constructs. Like, race is also has a lot of, like, as a construct has a lot of issues and has a ton of people criticizing it even right now. We've completely changed the like
Why? Why does it not work?
On a cultural level, but even on an academic level, the understanding of what race actually is and how you define it has changed a lot.
But why?
So
Why
I don't
can
know.
I not
I don't
say
think
I'm
I think
black?
it's another example of, like, you're talking about very
What
different
was
things.
there?
But even within the conversation about race, people bring up stuff like Rachel Dolezal and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think there is some level of validity to people who say, like, hey, I was identified this way, even if, like,
Ah! They're very different arguments, but I think it might be valid. No, you're missing the whole categorical argument, which is so fucking huge. And these two are just circle jerking each other.
I'm not, like, genetically whatever. Like, this is an experience that affected my life socially. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I think
Do they fall under the category? How do you determine if someone is white or someone is black? That's the problem with it. Yes, it is a social construct, and yes, gender is also a social construct. But the whole argument is that there's a difference between sex and gender. That's your argument. That's how you defend the fact that you're fucking trans.
I think a lot of it is in such bad faith that you can't actually get to the heart of either issue. So I don't know. It makes me happy when people are willing to engage with it outside
You can't get to the heart of either issue.
of, like, the
Well, actually, no, you have. You've gone to the heart of the fucking trans issue. You're trans. You fucking talked about it so many fucking times. What the fuck are you talking about?
sort of bad faith comparisons.
Yeah, I think like I just brought up the age
Explain what about them is different.
example because
Yeah.
I thought it was closer to like the sexual assault or sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I think like so essentially okay, I feel like there are two roads I can go down. So
Sure.
I'm just I'll just list the roads and then you can pick whichever one you think is more interesting, I guess.
Okay.
So road number one is kind of talking a bit more about this. How do you like? What are some valid ways of affirming someone's identity or someone's gender, right?
Sure.
So, of course, one might say, you know, like one invalid way would be maybe you have to be attracted to me, right? So that's
Right.
probably not fair to assert someone else has to do, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I
Whereas-
don't think anybody's. I mean, I really don't think anybody's ever done that.
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
even the most aggressive person, like, I can think of a couple of people who've been pretty aggressive on the, like, you know, preference, like genital preferences or transphobic kind of front. Like, I can think some people who are pretty open and my opinion have kind of hot takes on that front.
Right.
But even those people don't go that far. They're not literally saying they've never advocated for that. I think that's like a complete straw man. But yeah, but
Comment on it.
I'm
Wait,
not- I
no,
don't
no,
think that
comment on
people
it.
are actually advocating. Like, I guess the question is just like, why would those be wrong? Like, where's the line, basically? Or if there's like some blur, like, how can we kind of know, like, what is wrong, what is right? Sort of. Is there like any sort of like?
I don't think anyone's here.
okay.
God, I really want to talk to someone about fucking trans shit. I want to talk to someone on both sides, dude. I want to talk to someone who's like super pro-trans. I want to talk to someone who, I don't want to say pro-trans. I want to say someone who's into like xenogenders and like supports that. Because I want to hear the arguments for it. And then I really, I guess say test my mettle against someone who like doesn't understand the trans shit, which I've tried baiting conservatives on here so many times, just no one fucking comes on. But anyway, Canadians, go fuck yourselves, stop DDoSing me, and y'all have a good night.